There was a woman named Leah who spent much of her life feeling overlooked. She was not invisible, but she often felt unnoticed. In school, others received praise while she quietly did the work. At home, she helped without being asked, and people became used to her strength because she rarely complained. In her heart, though, there was a question she did not say out loud very often. Why do some people seem selected for great things while I remain in the background? That question followed her into adulthood. She worked hard, stayed honest, and tried to do the right thing. Yet doors seemed slower to open for her. Some of her efforts were ignored. Some of her ideas were passed over. Some of her prayers felt unanswered for a long time. She began to wonder whether she was simply meant to live a small life, while others moved ahead with obvious favor. That thought made her quiet and tired. One evening, after another long day, Leah sat alone near her window and looked at the street below. The lights outside were beginning to shine against the dark. She felt the weight of disappointment in her chest. She had been praying for direction, but more than direction, she had been asking for assurance. She wanted to know that her life still mattered. In that stillness, a calm thought settled in her heart. You were selected. It was not loud. It was not dramatic. It came gently, but it stayed. Leah sat very still, because the words felt bigger than they sounded. She had spent so long thinking that being unnoticed meant being unchosen. But now she began to understand something different. Selection does not always look like attention from people. Sometimes selection looks like being prepared in silence. Sometimes it looks like being shaped before being seen. Sometimes it looks like hidden faithfulness before visible purpose. The next morning, she woke with the same responsibilities, but her heart had changed a little. She still had work to do. She still had bills to pay. She still had questions, but now she looked at her life differently. She wondered if the slow seasons had been training her. She wondered if the hidden years had been building something important. She wondered if what she called delay was actually preparation for a role she had not yet entered. That thought gave her strength. Leah began to pay closer attention to the things she had once dismissed. She noticed how often people came to her when they were confused or hurting. They trusted her. They opened up to her. They asked for advice. She had thought this was just because she was available, but now she saw it differently. Maybe she had been selected to carry peace into difficult spaces. Maybe she had been chosen to listen when others were too busy to hear. Maybe her quiet strength was not ordinary at all. This change in thinking did not make her arrogant. It made her responsible. She no longer saw selection as a title for pride. She saw it as an assignment. Being selected meant there was a purpose attached to her life. It meant she could not treat her gifts lightly. It meant the quiet seasons were not wasted. It meant the obstacles had not disqualified her. They may have been part of the process that made her ready. She thought about the times she had been tested, the friendships that did not last, the opportunities that slipped away, the long waits, the discouraging conversations, the moments when she felt alone in her effort. At the time, she had assumed these things were signs that she was not enough. Now she began to understand that selected people are often refined in places others never see. A chosen life is not always easy, but it is never without meaning. Leah began to trust the process more. She started waking up earlier to pray and think clearly. She became more careful with her words. She stopped speaking about herself as if her story was small. She began to treat each day like it mattered. She was no longer waiting to become chosen. She was learning to live like someone already selected. That change affected how she handled disappointment too. Before, when something went wrong, she would immediately question herself. She would wonder whether she had missed her chance or whether her life was going nowhere. Now she paused before believing those thoughts. She reminded herself that selection is not undone by a hard day. A chosen person can still face delay. A selected life can still have struggle. The struggle does not erase the calling. That was an important lesson for her. One afternoon, she received news that a position she had hoped for was given to someone else. The old pain tried to rise quickly. She felt the familiar sting of being passed over. For a moment, she wanted to retreat into the same old thought, that she was never the one being picked. But then she stopped herself. She breathed. She remembered the quiet message in her heart. She had been selected by God, even if people did not always see it. Human recognition was not the final measure of her worth. That peace helped her respond differently. She did not turn bitter. She did not stop trying. She did not begin to live in resentment. Instead, she kept her head steady and her heart open. She understood that sometimes when one door closes, it is not because you were rejected. It is because your selection is leading you elsewhere. The right place is often not the first place. As time passed, Leah saw that her life was beginning to align in ways she could not have planned. The people who needed her were finding her. The work she was meant to do was becoming clearer. Her gifts were becoming useful in ways that mattered. She had once wanted to be chosen in public. Now she understood that selection begins in the unseen places. The person God selects is often first developed in private. She also saw that being selected means learning how to carry both grace and responsibility. It is not enough to be gifted. A selected person must also be faithful. They must learn patience. They must learn humility. They must learn how to stay steady when life does not reward them immediately. Leah had to grow into those things, and the waiting had helped her do it. There was a season when she felt discouraged again, but it was different this time. She was less likely to believe the lie, that she had been forgotten. Instead, she saw that she was still being shaped. Sometimes selection feels quiet because God is still building the person before opening the platform. Leah learned to respect that hidden process. She stopped asking only, "When will I be seen?" and started asking, "What am I becoming?" That question changed her life. She became kinder to herself. She understood that a selected life does not always move fast. Sometimes it moves deep. The roots go down before the fruit comes up. She began to value hidden growth. She honored the small steps. She stopped comparing her path to others. Comparison had made her feel behind, but now she realized that her path was unique. What was being built in her was personal, purposeful, and necessary. Her family noticed a change. They saw more peace in her face. They saw less self-doubt in her voice. They saw that she carried herself differently, with a calm confidence that did not need to prove itself all the time. Leah became someone people could lean on, not because she had become perfect, but because she had learned to trust that her life had meaning. Later, she began helping younger women in her community. Many of them felt unseen and uncertain about their purpose. Leah listened to them carefully. She told them that being selected by God does not always mean being instantly celebrated by people. Sometimes selection means being prepared in hidden places, tested in quiet ones, and strengthened through seasons no one applauds. She encouraged them not to mistake silence for rejection. She told them that a selected life often feels slow before it feels bright. She told them that delay is not always denial. She told them that the process is part of the proof. If God selected you, He is also shaping you for what comes with that selection. That means every season matters. Every lesson matters. Every prayer matters. Every hidden tear matters. Leah learned to live with gratitude. She no longer despised the hard years. She saw that they had built resilience. She no longer called herself ordinary in the way she once had. She understood that being selected did not make her better than others. It made her responsible to live well. That is a beautiful kind of seriousness. It keeps the heart humble and the spirit strong. One of the deepest changes came when she began to look back over her life and count the ways she had already been carried. There have been moments when she should have given up, but did not. Moments when she should have broken, but remained standing. Moments when she was overlooked by people, but still preserved by grace. She realized that selection was visible in her endurance. She had survived what she once feared would end her. That was not an accident. Her confidence grew, but it was a quiet confidence. It did not shout. It did not boast. It simply stood. She was no longer waiting for the world to tell her she mattered. She had heard it in her heart. You were selected. That was enough. Leah's story became a reminder to others that some lives are chosen for a reason before the reason is clear. Some people are placed in hard seasons because they will one day carry comfort into those same places. Some are selected to lead, some to heal, some to build, some to encourage, some to stand when others fall away. A selected life is not a perfect life. It is a purposeful one. In the end, Leah understood that selection is not only about being chosen for opportunity. It is about being chosen for impact. It is about living in a way that blesses others, honors God, and stays faithful in both quiet and visible places. She no longer wanted only to be noticed. She wanted to be useful. She no longer wanted only applause. She wanted purpose. And that was the greatest sign that she had understood her calling. She was no longer asking whether she had been selected. She was living like someone who knew she had.